Roasting coffee for espresso is a real weakness of mine, but that's something that I'm determined to address. So how am I going to achieve it? Well, I'm going to have to brew more coffee by espresso, and I'll admit that I don't do enough of that within the roastery, but today I present to you this piece of kit here. That's going to help me achieve a better in-house lab experience so I can profile espresso roasting better. Let me give you some context about what this video is about. It's, I suppose, a video that's being open and exposing one's flaws. As a coffee roaster, we all have flaws, we all have preferences. My preference over time has been filter coffee. Over time, I have operated this business, blending room, as predominantly a single person operation. A single person operation means that when you have espresso equipment inside of your roastery, a two-group machine, and you're in your infancy, so the first 5 or 10 years, because I was a single person operator, there was a high resistance to having two-group espresso machines or greater on throughout the day, all day, every day. The roastery in which I operate is in a nondescript unit factory estate, an industrial estate, of which the landlord, our local council, does not allow the sale of wet goods. So there was a lot of resistance to producing espresso-based beverages on a daily basis. That meant that as time grew, or as time rolled on, it really has exposed the weakness in my abilities as a roaster. Now, 50% of this business that I run is producing coffee for cafes. Most cafes, all cafes, produce coffee via an espresso machine. Don't get me wrong, I can produce coffee that I believe tastes very, very lovely through espresso machines, but I know I can do better. This conundrum was particularly opened up when I started roasting on the Loring. And the Loring as a roaster really pushes you, it drives you to roast very, very light. And as you roast very light, it isn't entirely conducive to espresso brewing. And the reason for that is airflow. The positive airflow of an air roasting system such as the Loring really helps promote fidelity and clarity inside of the cup. The hot air envelopes the beans. There's really great development which exposes, or promotes, should I say, that hyper clarity of flavour. That can sometimes not be conducive to espresso brewing, notwithstanding the fact that you try to achieve a lighter colour, which isn't sometimes conducive with espresso brewing, and also just the types of flavours that the Loring provides. However, it doesn't mean that Loring isn't a machine that you should choose if you're predominantly espresso. That's quite the contrary. What it does is it really pushes you to go lighter and lighter and lighter, which is wonderful, and I love it, and that's what filter coffee is all about for me. When I was on the Probat, it was much, much easier to roast for espresso. It allowed me to roast somewhat darker. There was a greater degree of sweetness. There were just lots of things about that apparatus that encouraged me to roast coffees that were easy to extract in espresso machines. There were more bittering compounds, there was more body, there was a more prevalent perceived sweetness. And those things combined in concentration through an espresso machine just means that machine was, well, it smoothed out the errors in my process and the flaws in my ability as a roaster. What the Loring has done is exposed those flaws considerably. So I must be somewhat thankful to the current Chancellor of the Exchequer of the UK and the desire to tax businesses and small businesses so deeply, which has forced me, it's encouraged me to go and spend a little bit of money. And to that end, I have bought myself this one group Sanremo U. I've been asked questions about why particularly this machine. Well, I'll be blatantly honest, I didn't do much research or development. It was more that I've worked with this brand Sanremo since, I want to say 2010, maybe 2011. When was the first London Coffee Festival? I don't know. For a period, Sanremo in the UK were the sponsors of the UK Barista Championships. I think it was 2009 through some time. And it was at that point that my partner Katie and I went to the London Coffee Festival, and we befriended the team that was then. It's totally changed now, but the team that was then. And I will admit, I felt part of the Sanremo family. And it's on that basis that, yes, I mean, I could have chosen a La Marzocco GS3, love that machine. And I will buy one at some stage because I do sell La Marzocco machines to my clients. But this machine is more brand aligned. It was a little cheaper than the La Marzocco GS3 as well. And of course, it has some functionality in it, untested mind. It has some functionality in it that should allow me to do quite a lot of things. Pressure profiling, it's multi-boiler, as in dual boiler. It has some nice gizmos inside of it, and it should allow me to be able to really test some of the abilities of myself in profiling coffee for espresso. So if you got to this point in the video, I applaud you, because like all of these darn YouTube videos, the long form ones, is I start out with a little bit of an idea and I free flow all the way through it. So what is the point of this video? Well, it's not going to be per se a technical discussion over how you roast for espresso, rather one that should promote the idea that we are all fallible and we all have weaknesses, flaws. We have good points as well. I think I roast for filter pretty well. I've had an anaerobic natural this morning, and I really don't like anaerobic naturals, but I'm testing myself on that basis to roast things that I don't particularly like and think of ways of enjoying the things as well, because you know the community of coffee will move forward and I'll be stuck in the dark ages, and I don't want to do that. So this video is more about, if you're a new roaster, if you're an old roaster, don't worry so much if you've got a flaw, a chink in your armor. Rather, admit that you've got a chink in your armor and seek, as James is doing, ways of being able to correct that. So basically, a lot of these videos are, don't be me, don't do what I do something else. Learn from somebody who's been doing coffee since 1999. I mean, I worked in a cafe in the city of Hull in East Yorkshire. That was the first cafe to have a sofa. I mean, think of that. Think of that nowadays, that you're a cafe and you've got a sofa in it, and that's the USP. I mean, so I existed in a time where cafes were hard tables and chairs. There wasn't trend, there wasn't exposed walls or exposed brick. Do you know what? I'm not going to do this now. I was going to do these things whilst I film, and instead maybe I'll just sit here and talk. So don't worry that you might have a part of your roasting process that you're not particularly great at. Instead, seek to improve it. Do what I'm trying to do, and stand back from your business, stand back from yourself, and say, what do I enjoy doing and what do I not enjoy doing? And maybe do a little less of the things that you enjoy and do a little more of the things that you don't enjoy, because most people try to avoid things that they don't enjoy doing. So I would avoid somewhat espresso profiling, because in times gone past, I'd have to hump a 2-group espresso machine onto the workbench, hook it up, fire it up, dial in. These are all things that, as a single person operator, takes quite a lot of time to do. And rather, I could make a filter batch quickly. It'd take me 60 seconds of preparation, maybe fiddling around with a couple of dial-ins here and there, but it was an easy thing to do. So therefore, change I was resistant to. So don't do those things. I think, to be fair, I should also give you some value in this video. So how am I going to actually achieve this thing, this notion of being better at producing coffee for espresso machines? Well, I'm going to obviously take my current profiles. I'll try and put a profile on the screen now so you can see what I do. Invariably, my roasting tends to be around 10 to 10.5 minutes for an espresso profile, dependent on cultivar and process. I tend to develop the coffee post first crack for around 2 minutes, and I found that in the Loring I get some degree of balance in that. Balance being that there is perceivable acidity, but it's not out of balance, that there is character, there is some texture, there is some sweetness. But I feel that I can improve on that. There are phases within the roast that promote sometimes too much acidity, and maybe there are things that I need to play around with that post first crack development time to do a bit more of the balancing. I consider development time as, instead of development, balancing time. So you can balance a coffee proportionate to the way that you wish to brew it. And I use post first crack in order to achieve that. An aggressive development time, so that is one that is shorter than longer, will retain more clarity, retain more focus from the origin and process, but maybe disproportionate to the way that you wish to brew it. The inverse of that is if you develop for too much time post first crack, that you will mute the coffee some, and again that can be reversely disproportionate. So I'm going to take this basic profile that I have, and I encourage every roaster out there, new or old, to have a basic profile stuck in your pocket, that for any new cultivar, for any new process, for any new origin, you can pull it out and say, I'm going to do this for filter, or I'm going to do this for espresso. Do that. Anyhow, I'm going to take my basic espresso roast profile, and of course I'm going to put it through this machine. I'm going to make sure that the machine is outputting a recipe that is proportionate to the recipes that I give our commercial customers, and ones that maybe have this style of equipment at home. From there, I am going to ask myself the question, is this coffee balanced? And I'm going to seek to try and achieve greater balance. Irrespective of what that means that I have to do inside of the roast, that doesn't matter. I'm going to change everything if everything or anything is required to be changed. So that's going to be the process. I will of course try to document that via this long form YouTube, and maybe it will come to a point where it will be a how-to. I know people like how-tos, and maybe I'm not the greatest content creator about doing a how-to thing. It takes a lot of time to put these things together, and I feel that I'm better, or find it easier, to just sit with devices and things in my hand and talk about stuff that's related to running a coffee roastery, or being a coffee roaster, or a cupper, or whatever the hell, whatever hat that I'm wearing on the day of filming. So how does that sound? How does that journey sound to you? Is it one that I think that you might be interested in? Is it something that, well, I could improve on? Could I do a better job at communicating the hows, whys, and all of the other things? Is it something that you'd be interested in following and watching? Do put that in the comments below. If you've got to this point in the video and you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, it'd be really useful if you did. I can't believe that in August I'll be 3 years, August 2026, I'll be 3 years into doing this YouTube channel, and I haven't reached the number of people that my ego wishes me to reach. So sharing these things and discussing the things would be really useful for my ego, and I do have one, even though I try to dispel it often as I possibly can. Anyway, I digress. I hope this video has been somewhat useful. It's been an insight into a roaster's brain and how he is going to attempt to become a better roaster into the future. As always, if you do pick up a bag of coffee that I've roasted, I hope you enjoyed, and you have a great week.